So, hello and welcome to the New Gig podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Hodgson, and today I'm delighted to be joined by the CEO of Distributed, Mr. Callum Adamson. How are you doing, Callum?
I'm well, thank you, Glenn. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you on. So, let's go back to the beginning and just say a few words about, why you took this personal journey. What's your background, and why did you decide to form and found Distributed?
Yeah, sure thing. We'll take a trip down memory lane together. I started my journey into tech, into digital products as an engineering student. I was studying aeronautics up in the north of Scotland when the internet really took off, the emergence of Google and Yahoo and chat rooms and all these sorts of products that were being launched. And I got more excited about that than I was about aircraft. I still am. And I'm really excited about aircraft. Like, I love them. So in the end, I actually left my degree in its final year to join a startup here in London.
Yeah.
And we were building inventory management systems for e-commerce platforms. The team that were leading that product ended up selling the company, which is a great outcome for everybody involved. And it was a great period of learning for me, especially to just be completely immersed into digital technologies and how they were affecting the industry that we were working in. After then, I effectively became a freelancer, became a digital consultant for program delivery or project delivery. Right. And I helped deliver a bunch of digital projects for many clients, I think almost 40 in total over a 10-year period. Some large and public, some small and quirky and cool. And as I got to the end of that 10-year arc, the clients that I was dealing with and the customers that I had were much larger, and they were experiencing a growing number of problems with resourcing talent. They wanted to deliver software, they wanted to deliver digital products, but their traditional methods of recruitment, of staffing, of sourcing talent were failing them. So traditional outsourcers, recruitment firms, agencies, everybody was struggling to get the right talent at the right time for the right cost. And it sounds bizarre today because it's common sense now and it's widely accepted and becoming more mainstream. But my conversation was around, look, this talent's available. You just need to think wider and you need to think independent, not fully employed or, as part of a larger company. And I started pulling individuals down from Upwork, qualifying them myself, ensuring that their systems were secure. They had access into my customers' development environments, etc. And I delivered probably 6 or 7 software projects using on-demand talent like that. And I figured, well, the aha moment was these companies would all use independent talent. They'd all use freelancers at scale if they had a product that filled in the gap that was the barrier to them. So this is where talent clouds I've seen a massive rise over the past 5 years. Just introducing customers to talent doesn't solve the problem. You need the infrastructure in between too. And that idea became Distributed, that we took to market in 2018. We've been growing above 200% ever since we took it to market. So every year since, we are an enterprise-focused talent cloud here in the UK, the #1 talent cloud in the UK, and the largest enterprise provider globally now. And seeing the effect that our business has had on freelancers and the outcomes that they're delivering for our customers, I mean, that's more exciting than aircraft, put it that way.
Well, exactly, and I think this is the real element within it. It's the efficiencies, but also the opportunities that are being created for corporations, but also the freelance talent itself, Callum. And I think this is the really interesting role that you play as being the glue and the facilitator in this process.
Yeah, well, my view on it, well, I was a freelancer for a long time, most of my career. So I understand the pains of being a freelancer.
Yeah.
And what we address specifically at Distributed are the missing elements from freelance careers. So predictability of income, ability to upskill and grow your career, to manage people, to mentor people, to be mentored, all that sort of stuff. And for our customers, it's the recruitment, the qualification, the onboarding, the securing, the paying, and the retaining of talent. And that's what was always missing for enterprises or for any company on earth to start using freelancers repeatably, predictably, cost effectively.
Well, let's dig a little bit more into sort of the development of the Elastic Teams concept, because this is something that's been demanded from both sides more and more. Can we say a little bit more about sort of the drivers for this from a business perspective, but also from an open talent perspective as well, Callum?
Yeah, so what we specialize in at Distributed is the assembly, deployment, management, and retention of teams, not necessarily individuals. We do individuals, but it's predominantly teams focused.
Yeah.
When you think about the way that the sector is going to develop over the next 10 years and what the needs of our customers are, it's not individuals. Giving them a loosely affiliated group of individuals actually creates resourcing problems internally for them. Because they have to manage them, they have to meet with them, they have to work with different time zones, different infrastructures, sometimes different languages.
Yes.
So what we've created at Distributed benefits the freelancer and the customer in the end, because we are focused on team creation and team deployment.
Yeah.
Now that means on the way in as a team member, I guess you're qualified more rigorously than traditional freelancer platforms. So we understand more about your personality, your problem solving methodology, your communication style and skills, what you want to work on, the type of teams that you want to be a part of, and what you expect in terms of income predictability or income source, the types of companies you want to work for. That then allows us to apply modern technology. I know AI and ML are super sexy right now.
Yep.
We've been doing that for a while, not in a chat GPT sense, just in using technology to create happier, more productive teams.
Yes.
And that allows companies to actually have these software products delivered without creating teams internally to manage their teams of freelancers.
Okay.
And that's really what Elastic Teams are, the ability to deploy teams flexibly into organizations to build software products that's much more beneficial for the freelancer and the customer.
Yeah, so it's building these links in, and of course making it easy, because it's one of the issues we've seen in a lot of places is kind of HR departments being a little bit unsure about how to have this kind of freelancer strategy, how it fits in, the whole compliance element. But of course, you're working with big companies and organizations who have taken this to heart, and now it's in their DNA. So the proof of the pudding is really there, Callum.
Oh, it's been proven out. I mean, we work with Ministry of Justice, the BBC, British Petroleum, British Telecom, Capital, like you name it. And these are large traditional companies.
Definitely.
They're not the Amazons, the Netflixes, the Googles. These are 120, 150-year-old companies that are now taking part in what I see and what is evident from research firms like Gartner and Forrester and EY and all that. It's a recomposition of the workforce.
Yeah.
In order to address the tech talent shortage and in order to build software products more efficiently, we have to use freelancers at scale. Yeah. Every aspect of it makes sense. There's no compromise on quality, no compromise on speed, no compromise on cost. And what these large organizations are doing is, as part of their workforce recomposition, they're looking at moving from roughly 2 to 5% current freelancer composition, and they want to move over the next 5 years to 30% freelancer composition.
Right. Yeah.
So this growth is inevitable. It's unstoppable. And do you know what? I need to thank our customers for being so strategically aware and forward thinking. It's great. There is proof in the pudding, though. We were audited in Q4 2022 by BT, and they used a third-party developer productivity tool. It's a piece of software that's rolled out across their entire enterprise.
Yeah.
And our Elastic Teams, you love these stats. Our Elastic Teams were tested and proven to be 68% more productive than their existing suppliers. So that's all the traditional big name consultancies.
Yes.
So they're 68% more productive than them, but versus the global market benchmark, 108% more productive.
Unbelievable.
So BT got these figures, and they actually had to go run it again because they didn't believe.
Yes, just in case. It just seems too good to be true.
Yeah. And it took a while for BT to get used to working with them at scale, regularly, at pace. But now they've seen the benefit, and the benefit's been validated by an external party. It's all about growing that percentage of their on-demand workforce.
Yeah. And I think this is the interesting element of it. It's kind of, we used to talk about the future of work, but it's the present of work. This is going on here and now. And as you say, it's big, complex, traditional organizations that are taking this to heart. It's not just sort of the cool, trendy scale up
Yeah.
of the day, because they realize the benefits and the efficiencies that can be gained from this now, but also well into the future.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if you think about the quality of talent and the mindset of the talent you're working with as a freelancer, you
Yeah.
don't get your next job unless you're good at this job. Like there's no recommendation, there's no ongoing contract.
Yeah.
There's no income effectively. So the mindset is there. And this rebalancing of power from employer to employee because of the tech talent shortage has driven lots and lots of people towards having independent careers.
Yes.
But like 37% of all digital talent is freelance today.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
massive. So if you don't have a freelance strategy, you don't have a talent strategy.
Well, this is it. And I think this, you're really into something here. The fact that the top talent is mobile, it demands flexibility and openness. And the whole idea of a 9 to 5 job and a traditional contract of selling hours to one employer is just not interesting anymore. And organizations are forced to change because it's following the talent and making sure that these are the people that they can attract. So they're forced either from self-interest or kicking and screaming to the new reality, because they have to sort of align with getting the job done and being able to take on the talent that they need.
Yeah, like you mentioned, you referenced earlier the future of work. This is absolutely not the future. It's today.
Yes.
And the future, the concept that is yet to be adopted and is much harder to grasp is asynchronous work.
Right.
Like we still find it distributed, even though we work with globally distributed freelancers. Our end customer still demands that they be online during their business hours, typically.
Okay. Yeah.
To increase productivity, to increase talent choice, talent availability, you have to begin a bit more of an asynchronous working environment where talent works when your office is closed. However, we'll get there. That is also an inevitability. It'll just take a bit longer. But yeah, it is very much the present, and they're very much engaging at scale.
And asynchronous work, Callum, is this more a mindset shift? Because the technology is there, it can facilitate all this. It's the individuals have to sort of take that extra step forward to be able to feel comfortable, and this can be something that's an everyday reality.
It can. Now, like you said a second ago, the best talent now dictate the terms effectively, and they are. One of the biggest downsides of being a freelancer when I was a freelancer, I'm getting on in years, was you didn't actually know if you were going to get the next job or the next piece of income. Now with talent, digital talent, top digital talent being in such high demand, that risk is disappeared, right?
Yeah.
So when we talk about asynchronous work and you want to work with the top talent, it's relatively easy for them. Where it becomes difficult is in organizations whose structures, whose daily rhythms, whose drumbeats are built around face-to-face meetings and person-to-person interactions. All asynchronous work means is it's all written.
Yeah.
It's written, which means it can be done at any time.
Yeah.
That's it. And it takes a while to adjust to that way of working, because as humans, we get a lot of our fulfillment, sense of community, sense of belonging, sense of teamwork from person-to-person interactions.
Right.
So those still need to exist, but most of the work can be done outside of traditional office hours.
Yeah, and I guess also one of the advantages of these private talent clouds is the fact that you've curated it, you've actually been the filter to make sure that this is the right people and the right team that is available to be able to support a company or an organization.
Yeah, and that's the only thing that was missing. If you think about the way that I was using freelancer marketplaces, you can go in there and you just sort by star rating, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to give any real information about the type of job, the type of team that you wanted.
Massive potluck. Yeah.
It's potluck, and you didn't know how team members were going to interact with each other, how they were, whether they were going to complement each other, or whether they were going to actually clash heads, or there's going to be friction there. With Talent Clouds, it's a bespoke community of like-minded, highly qualified, highly skilled team members that are composed on demand to fit the job at hand. Not just selected because the CV works, or because they've worked on a similar technology. It's a leap in advancement from traditional marketplace, and much more suited to what businesses are demanding, which is predictability, scalability, security.
Yeah. And something that, let's be honest about it, Callum, the traditional recruitment companies have not been able to solve in the offline world or the online world. We still see these round peg in a square hole situations time and time again. So you've actually sort of taken the uncertainty out of this whole recruitment process by making sure it's a well-functioning blended team that's brought in here.
Yeah, it's harder to do. It's harder to build. It's more sustainable, more beneficial in the long term, more valuable as a proposition in the long term.
Yeah.
It's far easy to just be a conduit for talent into organizations.
Yeah.
But we've shown time and time again, and the data proves it, in taking the approach that we do at Distributed and using the technology and the understanding of talent that we have, it delivers much better outcomes. And it represents a real care for talent and a real will to bring careers into freelancing, measurable growth, defined goals and progression, not just I'm a Java developer, I'm a senior Java developer. Yeah. I'm a senior Java developer, because that's really it. That was the path. There's much more lateral career movement, vertical career movement, and much more fulfillment out of the way that we choose to address the talent shortages and the way that we choose to assemble and deploy teams to build software.
Yeah. And I guess this is with these extra functionalities, these extra stickiness, if you want, this is what attracts the high-skilled talent onto the platform as well, Callum.
It is something we've done since day one at Distributed, is we've not broken our promise to talent. So we may not have always had the product that they were looking for, but we've always been driving towards it. We're most of the way there today, and we'll be there very, very shortly at scale. But what we set out to do was address, we call it Maslow's hierarchy of freelancer needs internally, right? So it's like a pyramid of stuff. The first one is address income predictability. So as a freelancer, I want to know where my income is going to be coming from, and I want to have a choice over where it comes from. And I want to plan that out for the next 6 or 12 months, so that I know when I'm taking a break, when I'm working on a side project, etc. Second one, I want payment schedules the same as a regular employee. I work this month, I want to be paid this month. Most enterprise organizations are on 60 and 90-day payment terms with freelancers. It's crazy. And 30% of freelance invoices are never paid. Around about $8 billion a year is not paid out to freelancers. So you got your income predictability, you got your payment schedules. The next one is working with team members that kind of improve me as an individual, so that complement my skill sets, that can challenge me, but that I can also teach and contribute to and lift up. And when you go up there, it's no account management or documentation. So at Distributed, when I was a freelancer, you had to be everything. Your own finance team, your own invoicing system, your own account manager, all this sorts of stuff.
The feeling.
At Distributed, there's account management and documentation teams that actually take care of that. So you do what you do best. Then you start to get to the top of like the pyramid, which is the ability to upskill and reskill into either vertical or horizontal skill sets, the ability to mentor and mentee, and then the ability to contribute to wider open source development projects as a freelancer while still earning. And that's what we offer at Distributed. So we have proven to be able to deliver freelance careers with more benefits than a permanent role. Now the mission is to continue to do that at scale. We're we're a large company compared to where we came from,
Yeah.
but we're still not solving the problem for tens of hundreds of thousands of freelancers yet. Yeah, we will get there. I was saying this to an investor the other day. The wave has crested and is about to crash on mainstream adoption of freelancer platforms like talent clouds and marketplaces at enterprise.
Yes.
And we were so happy to be like one of the key voices in architecting what that future looks like. Because we've been caring for freelancers for the best part of a decade now, and are going to continue to do so.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what they want, and you're kind of taking the insecurity and all the things that are sort of rolled out as the reasons why people do not take that step to becoming a freelancer. Kind of the handcuffs and the fear of the unknown. You're actually sort of smoothing out some of those peaks and troughs, which is making life easier, which I think is the massive attraction to the freelance talent itself.
Yeah, think about it as a value exchange. These are some of the most highly prized, highly talented individuals on earth that can affect the future of your company like no other team member can, potentially. All they're asking for, the things that they're asking for are relatively simple to deliver. The architecture to actually deliver at scale was very difficult to build.
Right. Yeah.
However, if you can deliver that to them, they will contribute at a higher quality, higher rate of productivity, more mission aligned than any team member ever would, because they value it so much, because they've been existing in the desert of the unknown for the past 50 years of freelancing.
Yeah. And I think it's also that element of accessing the surgical accessing of the talent that's needed for specific tasks and projects, as opposed to having people employed on these full-term contracts that sometimes not really fully deployed and certainly not to the best of their talents as well.
Yeah, I think companies are always going to have core teams, and those core teams are going to be hyper mission aligned and focused on defining and building the meaningful futures for their companies and their customers. That is a prerequisite. Having a team that thinks about your organization 8, 10, 12 hours a day, every single day, is a necessity.
Yeah.
Aiding that team, whether it be specialist skill sets or just more team members required for greater throughput, that's all going to be done by Elastic teams in the future. Yeah. Absolutely. So it's smaller, better, more cared for core teams, more adequately resourced and pointed in the direction of their zone of genius, supported by teams that are also working in their zones of genius. But yeah, there's that trade-off of being a big company where you have to find jobs for your team members.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's usually the fact it's the people who feel unloved, undervalued. They're the ones who sort of complain and a bit toxic on the corporate culture as well. And like most organizations, you spend 90% of time on the lowest performing 10% instead. So you can actually sort of get through to these key things, more delivery, more efficiencies by this Elastic Teams model.
Yeah, and I sympathize with larger companies with longer tenured employees that maybe should have moved on a while ago.
Yeah.
I don't, again, I'm not an advocate for like firing people or mass redundancies or anything like that, but a careful, considered and re-architecting of the existing workforce to create higher productivity, better outcomes for your customers.
Yes.
Maybe does involve having a few conversations about whether or not the right fit still exists for team members.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to take some time. That'll take some time.
Yeah. But I think also talent's more used to the fact, as well as corporations, that, a lot of times your sort of raison d'etre in your business model, this is changing every 18 months now with the speed that is changing. So talent itself realizes that, as individuals, we need to focus on lifelong learning, reskilling ourselves, make sure we've got the essential talent skills that can actually deliver value to companies and organizations.
Yeah, it's like me leaving my engineering degree to go work on the internet, right?
Yeah.
I've never worked a day in my life. Like everything about the internet is still magic to me. I love it to bits, and I work my ass off and I learn all the time. I'm like constantly trying to improve myself. So when we want to have conversations like, oh, reskilling, upskilling, learning skill sets that are going to earn you money, yes, it's important. But if you don't enjoy it, at some point that becomes fractious, and it becomes a grind, and it becomes a horrible place to be. There's 1,000 different things that you can be doing on any given day, and there's 10,000 things that you can be doing on the internet in any given day. So yeah, digital skills are a core part of future GDP. Find the one that you enjoy. Don't find the one that pays the most, because you'll find that if you enjoy it, you'll be excellent at it, and you'll probably get an outsized return back.
Absolutely. I think it's very difficult to excel at anything that you don't really enjoy. And I think you say it exactly right there, Callum. You know, you do what you love and you never work a day in your life. I think that's good. Enjoy yourself every day and get paid for it is probably the mantra that we should all be using, and not seeing it as work as this kind of dreaded feeling in your stomach on a Sunday afternoon that you need to do this thing 5 days a week. It's the kind of thing that makes you spring out of bed on a Sunday morning and think, oh, wow, I really want to do this because this is what I'm interested in. I think this alignment is probably the present and future of work, and a different sort of mindset for talent.
Yeah, it is. Now, don't get me wrong. At the end of the week, I'm on two wheels. Like I'm smoked. I'm absolutely smoked, but it's a good exhaustion. It's fulfillment. It's a sense of accomplishment, because I've enjoyed everything that I've done. And some of the problems are really, really hard. Some of the situations are tough. But yeah, the future of work and the way that we're going, there's a million jobs in digital technology. There's a million more that haven't been invented yet. Like for example, Glenn, 3 months ago, ChatGPT prompt engineer wasn't a job.
Right.
It's now an actual, people are recruiting for them all over the world now.
Yeah.
So from 3 months to now, 200,000 jobs have been created. That will happen every single year for as long as you want to chart it out. So find something that you really enjoy, that you want to nerd out about, get involved in it. And yeah, if it's on the internet, fantastic.
This is brilliant. And advice thrown in as well, Callum. What more could we ask for here? I mean, it's really been an honor and a pleasure to spend some time with you, listen to your viewpoints, and also hear about the evolution and the continued success of distributed. So really wish you all the best of luck going forward with this, and look forward to revisiting this in a few months' time as we can talk about the next stage of the evolution.
Oh, yes, please. Thank you for having me, Glenn. Appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. Speak again soon.
Yes, sir.